Good Thursday evening, everyone. Sir Owen Disney here, and we're going to talk a very, very entertaining and very interesting edition of TNA Impact that I just finished watching. Actually, normally we go into housekeeping and I talk about some things, but, I want to tell you guys something right off the top. AJ's not feeling very well, so he is under the weather. And I don't know if that means we're going to be able to get the videos out this weekend that we normally do. I hope we are, but I don't know, because obviously I have not heard from AJ today. So I do know that the movie review was supposed to be the Riddick trilogy, which would be Pitch Black, Chronicles of Riddick, and the new Riddick, which came out tonight during an 8 o'clock showing, which we were going to be at, but AJ caught some sort of a flu, so hopefully it's just a 24-hour bug and he'll be in tip-top condition for us tomorrow. But if that isn't the case, then you're going to get a whole lot of me this weekend, because I got a couple days off. As a matter of fact, I got 4 days off, so I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and that does include my awesome plans for 2 of the first 3 days of my voyage home in literally 2 weeks from today. I will be back in Orlando on Walt Disney World property, happy as ever before. But I'll talk about that later. And if there is something that happens and we're not able to do the recaps, the verses, if that's not the case, then I promise you I'll give you some awesome content as well. So don't worry about it. You're not going to get a missed day video. That's not going to happen. Don't worry. I don't roll that way. So needless to say, as we play the Crystal Light drinking game, so good. Let's talk TNA Impact. So, we're 1 week away from the free preview, which will be in St. Louis, Missouri. And that will be No Surrender, which used to be the September pay-per-view on the TNA calendar. Well, when TNA went to 4 pay-per-views a year, No Surrender got the axe, but in TNA's presence of mind, they had the idea to make these former pay-per-views into free previews, which would be utilizing Impact on Spike in order to showcase what would have been the pay-per-view. Well, what would have been the pay-per-view minus an hour. So you're basically getting a 2-hour version of a 3-hour pay-per-view on free television. And that is awesome. And that's what sets TNA apart from a lot of other companies. Obviously, I'm not talking about WWE. Excuse me. So let's talk about 1 week away from No Surrender. No Surrender will be next Thursday night, St. Louis, Missouri. And a lot of big-time events are going to happen. The final 4 in the Bound for Glory series will battle in 2 singles matches. The winner of this match will face the TNA World Heavyweight Champion at Bound for Glory on October 20th in San Diego, California. And that will be on pay-per-view. And, of course, I can't say who the World Heavyweight Champion is going to be, because Bully Ray will be defending the World Heavyweight Championship next week at No Surrender against a member of the Aces and Eights. But who will that person be? We'll find out by the end of the show. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the opening segment, shall we? So, Bully Ray comes out with, of course, Brooke Tessmacher and his muscle, the Huntington Beach bad boy Tito Ortiz. And, of course, they are, like, this far ahead, like, miles ahead, and, like, way, way back is Wes and Garrett and Nux and Mr. Anderson, and they're leading the charge of the Aces and Eights behind. Bully gets on the mic and says, the Aces and Eights are in total control. They're the best bunch of brothers a president could ever ask for. He's proud of each and every one of them. Without the Aces and Eights, he'd be nothing. He hugs Garrett and Wes and Nux. He fist bumps Tito, and of course the fans are chanting Tito sucks. And Bully Ray's like, no, don't worry about this. all the ladies out there that don't want to be with me want to be with you, and every guy out there wants to be either one of us. So yeah, it's basically trying to calm Tito's ego a little bit. So he addresses Mr. Anderson. He looks Mr. Anderson down and says he's the best vice president a guy could ever ask for. He has more love for him than even his own brother Devon, which of course that made Anderson agitated last week on Impact that I recapped yesterday. Sorry it took so long. I'll try not to do that, because we only got a couple weeks left anyway. So he hugs Mr. Anderson, and if you see Mr. Anderson's smirk on his face, he looks like he's up to something. And logic would tell us that he is up to something, because he's Mr. Anderson. He's not Mr. A-hole for nothing. It makes complete sense. And he's got a hidden agenda that he may have to let loose before the night's over. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. He officially accepts Sting's challenge for the match tonight, but don't think that it's going to be a World Heavyweight title match. Oh no, Sting, don't forget the stipulation. When I beat you at Slammiversary earlier in the year, you were not allowed to ever have another shot at the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So then he lays out the ground rules for the rest of the night, basically telling us what we're going to see in action tonight. You're going to see Nux taking on Chris Sabin, and then you're going to see Wes and Garrett against James Storm and Gunner. And then you're going to see the 12-man gauntlet with Mr. Anderson involved. And then, of course, at the end, Bully is going to take care of Sting once and for all. So he tells the rest of the Aces and Eights to just split as Nuxie takes care of Sabin. His words, not mine. So this is our opening match of the evening. Nux taking on Chris Sabin. Chris Sabin making his return to Impact Wrestling. The first time we've seen Sabin since losing the TNA World Heavyweight Championship to the aforementioned Bully Ray. Alright. Sabin gets caught with a short arm clothesline, and then Nux picks him up and nails it again, goes for a cover, 1-2, and a kick out. Comes off the ropes, Sabin gets nailed with a huge big boot, picks him up in a fireman's, and drops him throat first across the top rope. So he slingshots him to the bottom rope. You've seen that a lot on televised wrestling lately. Makes a cover, 1-2, and a kick out. So he locks on a neck twist. Sabin punches his way out, and he gets caught with a kidney forearm and a backdrop suplex by Nux. Goes to the second turnbuckle on the inside, hits a leg drop off the middle rope, 1-2, and a kick out. So he chokes Sabin on the middle rope, right in front of Bully Ray. Bully stands back like, I'm not going to do anything. And Nux comes off the ropes, goes for the dive bomb, Sabin out of the way, and Nux catches nothing but his groin on the middle rope. Sabin capitalizes on this mistake and dragon screw leg whips Nux while he's tied up in the ropes. A very unique maneuver, actually, right there. He goes up top, nails the missile drop kick. Bully grabs the hammer and slides it in. Nux has the hammer in hand, and what happens is Sabin drop kicks the knee, and thus Nux drops the hammer. So Sabin grabs the hammer right in front of the referee, and he nails Nux right in the back of the head with it. Immediate disqualification. So your first winner of tonight's action is Nux, beating Chris Sabin by DQ. So basically, Chris Sabin is throwing a fit in the back when we get back to from commercial break, and Velvet Sky actually comes out to console him, since we're all about actual shoot storyline relationships working into shoot relationships and vice versa in the wrestling industry right now. Everyone knows, or if you didn't know, that Chris Sabin and Velvet Sky have been together for a long time, and that was actually talked about for a split second on Impact last night. Well, last week's Impact that I reviewed last night. There we go. So she's trying to calm him down, and it kind of just goes nowhere. Basically, it's just to determine that Bully can't get the job done without the hammer. He needed the hammer to beat me. He wouldn't be successful without the hammer. Maybe it's time for me to take matters in my own hands. And Velvet's like, no, you don't need to do that. That's crazy. And Chris Sabin's like, it doesn't really matter because it's always going to be this way until someone stops Bully Ray, and maybe that someone needs to be me. Maybe I need to go to extraordinary measures in order to figure this out and take Bully Ray out myself. And Velvet kind of just, like, gives up, and that's pretty much the end of the segment. So, the Knockouts champion, Mickie James, comes out, and she calls herself the greatest Knockouts champion of the century. This prompts ODB to come out. Of course, she won the #1 contendership to the Knockouts Championship in the 2 out of 3 falls match with Gail Kim that I recapped yesterday. That was from last week's Impact. Are you talking about Miley Cyrus in the heart of rock and roll? We're in Cleveland, by the way, mind you. And the strange thing about the beginning of the promo was that Mickie James was talking about Miley Cyrus and her performance at the VMAs that everyone's talking about. Even bringing up twerking and the fact that Mickie and her twerk and taught her how to twerk and she needs to learn how to twerk. I don't want to hear that word again. So ODB basically says, you're talking about Miley Cyrus in the heart of rock and roll. Cleveland, Ohio, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Makes sense. Now we're on the same page. I continue. You need to worry about this broad taking that knocked out title. Okay. What's with the faux pas on the shows lately? I mean, Hogan last week. My God. I mean, we talked about the aces and eights. That's what it should be. Hogan called them the aces of eights. And then, of course, he made a world title match that had no right being made because it wasn't going to be a world title match. And now, tonight, we have ODB calling it the Knocked Out Championship. No, we're not back in the block with Jerry Flynn in WCW in 2000. No, this is TNA in 2013, and it's the Knockout title. Knockouts, Knockout title, the Knockouts division. Oh, my dad. Really? So, Mickie says, I'm a star. You aren't. Yes, she said aren't. And Mickie nails her with a belt shot from behind with the Knockouts Championship. And then ODB stands up and after she basically berates her to her face. ODB with a clothesline, picks up the title, raises it up in the air. Mickie snatches away. It's like, mine! And she gets up in her face. And, of course, she rips off Mickie James' t-shirt. And she covers herself with the Knockouts Championship as she goes to the back. She says, you're not rock and roll. You're not the Knockouts champion. Bam. So, yeah. There's always that. For those of you that were thinking, oh, she ripped her shirt off. Yeah, she did, but it was, like I said, one of those, like, wraps that people wear, kind of like a bathing suit wrap over the top. There was definitely a bra there, so it was fine. And it works because this is building up the chance that we're going to get TNA originals taking championships back from people that were castaways from another organization. Well, in some ways. But I like the fact they're pushing ODB. I mean, it took losing Tara in order for this to happen, but it happened. I mean, Tara and, of course, Angelina Love and, I mean, Katie Lee left when she was winner. And even Madison Rayne leaving the company, and when cheerleader Alyssa Flash left the company. I mean, it took that long, and obviously, definitely Kong, when Kong left the company. It took that long for ODB to actually go into active competition, because obviously she was the Knockouts referee for the longest time. Well, now she's after the Knockouts Championship. Do I think she beats Mickie James? You know, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I don't know, maybe not. I mean, at Bound for Glory, having all the baby faces get everything back, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I don't know, it could go either way, so. Forget about that pop. Pun not intended. So our next match is going to be the 12-man gauntlet. And just like I mentioned on this channel yesterday, Jay Bradley and Hernandez, given the fact they have only 7 points, are mathematically eliminated from competition. So basically, their job is to prevent someone from winning. And apparently, Bradley was paid a very hefty sum to get rid of someone at a very specific time, thanks to an organization. So he brings it up to Hernandez, is like, you know what, if we be business partners right now, I could put a lot of coin in your pocket. Give it some thought. And I don't know how much thought you're going to give. It's going to be right after this commercial break. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. So immediately, the first thing that comes to my mind, is the fact that the Extraordinary Gentlemen's Organization are the ones who paid off Jay Bradley to get rid of AJ Styles. Obviously, we'll never know that, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Our 12-man gauntlet is up next, and 20 big points on the line, the last-ditch effort for anyone to get into the Final Four in the Bound for Glory series to go on to next week at No Surrender to be in the final 2 matches. Those winners square off in a final match, and that person takes on the TNA World Heavyweight Champion October 20th at Bound for Glory. So Hernandez is out first, and Bradley's out second. Bradley gets on the mic and basically says, okay, what's your answer? And Hernandez answers him, kicks him in the midsection, and they start going at it. So Joseph Park comes out third, and Hernandez pounces Bradley, tries to dump him over the top, and Mr. Anderson comes out at number 4. Samoa Joe comes out at 5th, and in a very strange piece of editing, right after Joe comes out and starts brawling, they go to commercial. Which makes no sense, because they just went to commercial just a couple minutes ago. AJ comes out at 6, and right away he eliminates Joseph Park. So Park's the first one gone. Kaz comes out at 7th, and Joe goes for a muscle buster on Mr. Anderson. Anderson fights him off, and Joe's like, yeah, whatever, and does a leaping kick, knocking Mr. Anderson over the top to the floor. Anderson's the next one gone. Christopher Daniels is out at 8. So Joe double clothesline on Bad Influence, takes them both down, and Bad Influence with a double hip toss sends Hernandez over the top rope to the floor. Hernandez is gone. Jeff Hardy comes out at 9, and then Bobby Roode is out at 10. Bradley tosses AJ, he lands on the ring apron, and AJ eliminates Bradley, so Jay Bradley's gone. AJ drop kicks Frankie Kazarian off the ropes. Austin Aries comes out at 11. Of course, we know that means Magnus is going to be 12th, and that's exactly the next person that comes out. So Bad Influence eliminates Samoa Joe. They low bridge Joe, and when Joe's on the apron, Kaz runs into him and knocks him off. So Bobby Roode tosses Jeff Hardy. AJ monkey flips Kaz over the top rope to the floor. Daniels dumps Magnus, and then AJ eliminates Austin Aries via a forearm leaping off the back of Bobby Roode. AJ takes out Bobby Roode. It's down to AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels in the finals of the last-ditch effort 12-man gauntlet in the Bound for Glory series. So they trade blows. Whip in, backdrop, lands on the apron, does AJ. AJ catches Daniels with a springboard and a flying forearm. Clothesline, back fist, heel kick, fireman's carry, flip over, into the neck breaker. And he goes for the Styles Clash. Daniels pushes him off, ducks the clothesline, gets nailed with a Pele, clotheslines Daniels over the top rope to the floor, and AJ Styles, like I predicted yesterday, walks away with a big 20 points in the Bound for Glory series. So now, he solidifies his name as the winner of the Bound for Glory series. Series of matches, obviously, before we get to the Final Four. He's made it to the Final Four, and he is actually the person that has the most points. As of this moment, AJ Styles is sitting pretty with 49 points, which is what Magnus had before he got disqualified by Bobby Roode, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the Final Four, just like I mentioned yesterday, AJ Styles, Austin Aries, Magnus, and Bobby Roode. Jeff Hardy bumped out via AJ winning. So, because of winning this match, AJ gets the choice to choose anybody he wants to face. Any of the other 3 competitors in the first match of next week's semifinals. That will lead to the finals, and the finals leads to Bound for Glory, obviously. So, we see Bully Ray in the back, and he's talking, actually, the more opportune term is he's browbeating Mr. Anderson. He says, I'm disappointed in you. And Anderson basically said he put it all on the line for the club. And he said, don't forget who I am. Bully says to fall in line, don't disappoint me ever again, Mr. Vice President. Ever again. So we get Sting and Rampage talking in the back, and basically Sting just says he should thank Bully Ray. Why? Because when Bully Ray beat him at Slammiversary, thus making him unable to ever contend for the World Heavyweight Championship again, it kind of started a fire in Sting. And it made Sting realize that there was, well, I don't know, strength in numbers, and that he needed to get the band back together and reform the Main Event Mafia. That's pretty much where we got from that. So we get our next match, which is the semi-main event. It is a non-title match, and I was thinking this was going to be a title match. It's a non-title match with Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff of Aces and Eights taking on the current and reigning TNA World Tag Team Champions, Cowboy James Storm and Gunner. So right away, when Gunner and Storm come out, they get jumped from behind by Aces and Eights. When they finally get some authority to start the match, the bell sounds, and we'll go kind of midway through the match. They double whip Garrett in, and they whip Gunner in with a clothesline. Storm with a face buster off the ropes, 1-2 and a kick out. Scoop slam, leaping knee drop, 1-2 and a kick out. Suplex blocked. West comes from behind with a clubbing blow. Bischoff with a snap clothesline. 2 shoulder blocks in the midsection, and he slams him into the boot of Wes Briscoe, tagging to Wes Briscoe. Wes comes in, whip in, and whips Garrett into Storm. Wes whipped into a clothesline, 1-2 and a kick out. He charges in, he gets the boot up. Storm whip in, back elbow, gets on the middle rope. Does Wes Briscoe, locking on a version of the Jujigatami while on the ropes. Storm falls out, makes a cover, 1-2, and a kick out. So he goes for a slam. Storm lands on his feet, nails him with the lung blower. Wes drags him to the corner so he not able to make the tag, and he kicks him off. Tagging a Gunner, clothesline, back elbow, boot in the midsection, headbutt, and a charging clothesline. Nails the Uranagi backbreaker, and Wes makes the save right before Bischoff is pinned. So Storm whips in, backdrop, there's a kick, and the slingshot into a DDT. I believe it was the old DWI finish of America's Most Wanted. 1-2 and a kick out. So he goes over the shoulder. We're going for the over-the-shoulder power slam into the flipping neck breaker off the ropes that they've been using lately as a finish. West sends Storm into the post because he pulls him out to the floor. And while this is happening, Garrett comes in, 1-2 and a kick out on Gunner. West grabs the tag title belt, and basically he is tugging with Brian Hebner, who will not let go. There's a nice tug of war with Baby Hebner over the tag team title. And this allows Garrett to brandish a chain, which he pops Gunner in the head with. Referee makes the count when he turns around, 1-2-3, and Aces and Eights win a non-title matchup against the TNA Tag Team Champions. So obviously, they're next in line for Gunner and Storm. I thought it was going to be the Bromans, but apparently that's not going to happen now. So I think it's going to be Gunner and Storm against Bischoff and Briscoe. Either, maybe at No Surrender, if I had to guess. The card isn't official, so I would say they probably make the rematch for the tag team titles, since obviously they won the non-title match, so obviously they need a title shot. You might as well do it at No Surrender next week, so that's what I think they're going to do. So we get our final segment of the evening. Not our final match, final segment of the evening. Magnus comes out with Austin Aries and Bobby Roode. All 3 in the ring. So JB brings out AJ Styles. AJ gets up in Roode's face. And then he gets in Aries' face and he says, "You want to do this?" And he's like, "You're the biggest blemish in the Bound for Glory series. And you're the first person I'm going through to get what I want." So yes, we get Austin Aries and AJ Styles next week, and it's going to be awesome. He's like, "I promise you one thing, there will be a winner. These fans. Good luck." They shake hands. So that's set up, and now that also sets up a matchup between the leader of Ego and a member of the Main Event Mafia. It's Magnus and Bobby Roode is the other semifinal match, and they will battle to determine who is going to go on to the final match, and the winner of that match will go on to meet Bully Ray, or someone else maybe, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, whomever that may be, October 20th at Bound for Glory. So Roode says, in true face, pun intended, status, "You know, I love it when a plan comes together." See, there's a reason that Ego exists. This reason was to get into the Final Four of the Bound for Glory series. And you know what? I got paired up with the weakest link here. See, next week is a different day. I will take back the World Heavyweight Championship of Bound for Glory. So Magnus thinks about it for a second. He's like, you know what? We earned points at each other's expense. You cost me points. I cost you points. The only problem is I didn't have Muppets like Statler and Waldorf, which I appreciate the reference, Magnus. Good job. At ringside helping do my bidding. You may have friends. I've got myself a family. Next week there will be no escape, no second chances, and no surrender. I will go on to the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, and I will finally become TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Very interesting promo between the four. And that sets up our Final Four. That sets up the final two semifinal matches. Will lead to a final match next week at No Surrender, and that man will go on to face off with the TNA World Heavyweight Champion a month later at Bound for Glory. On pay-per-view, mind you, in San Diego, California. So Bully comes out with Tito and Brooke, with Mr. Anderson in tow. Bully gets on the mic and says, you need to make this perfectly clear. This is a non-title match. Screw you and your best friend Hogan. I make the rules. Hogan comes out. He says, this is your receipt. Tito's not allowed at ringside. So security dragged Tito out through the crowd. And, oh, by the way, this is a no disqualification match. So our main event of the evening is Sting against the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Bully Ray in a non-title, no disqualification match. So right away, Stinger splash. And then he high velocity whip into the buckle. Tosses Bully over the top. Sting with a chair to the back. And then one to the ribs. And then he nails him across the back. They both get back into the ring. Bully with a low blow on Sting when he's going for another chair shot. Bully with a senton backsplash, 1-2, and a kick out. He grabs the chair, nails Sting in the back with it, and he slams Sting on the steel chair. Taz hands him a, I think it was an X-Acto knife, if I had to guess. Basically, he uses it to cut the ropes surrounding the ring apron to make the ring apron free, just like at Slammiversary when they did the same finish. They basically ripped off all the padding and revealed the wood underneath, and of course we had the pile driver finish, and that's how we ended it. But he was going for it again, so we knew he was going for it again. So he removes the mat and the padding yet again. He clubs Sting in the back. Sting double legs him, goes for the Scorpion Deathlock, and Garrett nails him from behind. Wes in the ring, and Nux is in the ring, and Rampage, Joe, and Magnus hit the ring, so we've got a brawl. Joe tosses Wes over the top. Magnus and Joe toss Garrett over the top. All of them brawl to the back. Both main event Mafia and Aces and Eights, they all brawl to the back. Sting goes for a Stinger splash, and all the craziness and all the confusion, and he misses. Bully goes for the pile driver on the bare wood. Sting counters, back body drop onto the canvas, and he misses the charge. Sting goes for the Scorpion Death Drop, but Bully grabs onto the ropes, and when Sting bumps backwards, he nails the back of his head on the unprotected wooden paneling. So, basically, he grabs the boards. He goes for a big boot. Sting ducks out of the way. Goes for a Scorpion Deathlock. He's got it locked on. Mr. Anderson has the hammer, and he's standing there watching this whole time. He's not done anything. What does he do? He takes the hammer. He tosses it over the side. He's like, oopsie, as Bully Ray taps out. And Anderson gets in the ring after the match is over. He says, you couldn't do it on your own, huh, Prez? Does that feel good? Do you know who I am? I'm the guy that's going to face you next week. Your next World Heavyweight Champion from Green Bay, Wisconsin. And my name is Mr. Anderson. He gets right up in Bully's face and goes, Anderson. His original music hits. And that's how we go home in the No Surrender Go Home edition of Impact Wrestling. Okay, lots to talk about here. Alright, so we have a lot of things, both inside and storyline, that are going to make this really, really interesting. Okay, here's the first thing. Okay, AJ Styles just signed a couple-month extension to his contract. Unless he can reach an agreement with TNA management, he'll be gone before 2014 gets too far into it. And if that happens, and we know it's going to happen, he needs to be putting people over. So, I've called all along AJ wins the Bound for Glory series. You know, you're really going to push me here because you gave away my main event that I would use for the Bound for Glory series winner in the first match. So, let's call a spade here. Let's talk about Magnus and Bobby Roode first. Magnus has come a long way. First off, a while back, Magnus was wanting to leave the company, and now he is a main eventer. He's getting pushed. He's got a fan base, and he's getting constant victories, and he almost won the Bound for Glory series. Then you've got Bobby Roode, who has a renewed sense of purpose. And the renewed sense of purpose is regaining the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, think about it from this perspective. He aligns himself with Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian to form the Extraordinary Gentlemen's Organization in order to get him into the Final Four. Now he's in the Final Four, he's got Daniels and Kaz in his back pocket to maybe run some interference for him. Does not bode well for Magnus. Then again, Magnus kind of has a mafia to back him up. So, it could go either way. I would say that Roode and Magnus is a little easier to call than AJ and Aries. And I'll talk about that in a second. So first off, Bobby Roode's over. Bobby Roode beats Magnus with help from Daniels and Kaz. I think what ends up happening is Daniels and Kaz go to interfere, and Joe and Rampage stop them, and in the confusion, Bobby Roode ends up getting a cheap win over Magnus. So Roode goes into the finals. That's my prediction. And, you put a gun to my head. I'd rather just be a three-way. Okay. Alright. What do? Do you give the win to someone who you're not sure is going to be with the company in 6 months? Or do you go back to somebody that everyone is behind, who has been behind, whether babyface or heel, and somebody who gets a constant and a consistent great crowd reaction, whether babyface or heel? Well, here's the thing. I've called AJ to win the BFG series from day one. I've said it. I said AJ would beat the three members of Ego to win the Bound for Glory series. Obviously, that did not happen. Threw a little monkey wrench in my plan with AJ losing to Bobby Roode. Well, actually, threw a monkey wrench in my plan for someone else other than AJ to get the points, but it doesn't really matter. Because AJ beat Roode, only got 7 points, wasn't enough to get him in the Final Four. As a matter of fact, he kind of finished in, where are we now? He was in 6th place. And 20 points propelled him to the lead. So, what do? Do you give the win to somebody who may not be around to reap the benefits of it? Or do you give the win to somebody who's going to be staying with the company, guaranteed, and somebody you can build the organization around, who you already have for a time in the last several years? I'm I'm going to eat my words on this. The Bound for Glory Series Finals is the battle between the Dirty Heels. Austin Aries versus Bobby Roode is the Bound for Glory Series Final. And you know, I'm going to say right now, Bobby Roode wins the Bound for Glory Series. The reason why? Because I'm going to guess, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, we got ourselves a new world champion next week. I say Mr. Anderson beats Bully Ray. What I think is going to end up happening, and it's kind of started, but it's not quite there. Obviously, everyone is kind of disillusioned at Bully via how he dealt with Devon being forced to leave the company. Storyline perspective, of course. And the fact that Bully and Devon were brothers, even storyline perspective, brothers from another mother, I guess is what Joel Gertner used to say back in ECW days. So, he did that to his own brother, and Mr. Anderson led the charge where that wasn't right. Why don't we vote on Tito? Well, here's what's going to happen. Bully is going to lose to Mr. Anderson at No Surrender with Aces and Eights interference. Bully Ray is going to be excommunicated from the Aces and Eights. Now, this doesn't make Bully the babyface. Oh, no. This makes Bully, Tito, and Brooke Tessmacher out on their own. And this makes Aces and Eights, and this is a weird comparison, this makes Aces and Eights the de facto babyfaces in this storyline. Maybe Nux goes with him. Maybe Nux will go with him. He'd be like, but they already have a muscle, so it doesn't really matter. I think Mr. Anderson wins. And I think that there's also rumors that Anderson is going to be leaving the company soon. But you know what? I think Anderson will resign. And I'll shoot right here. I think Randy Orton will prevent Mr. Anderson from getting in WWF again. Trust me again. Wow. I don't know why. I just totally messed that up. I think Randy Orton will prevent Anderson from returning to a WWE, if you know what I mean. So, Anderson re-signs with TNA, gets a brand new push as a tween... I hate the term tweener, but it works. As... He's not a babyface, he's not a heel, but he's back to how he used to be. He's just an a-hole that doesn't really care. And if he's cheered, he's cheered. If he's booed, doesn't really care. That's how it works. And then you have Anderson win. And Anderson defends the World Heavyweight Championship against Bobby Roode at Bound for Glory. And you could do so many things there. You could have Bully Ray interfere and Tito Ortiz interfere and cost Anderson the title. Or you could have Ego interfere and they could get involved and they could cost Anderson the title. So Anderson's will pretty much have his back against the wall in the match. Then again, if you go with what I said, the Aces and Eights would be the one to make sure that Ego and Tito Ortiz didn't get involved, so we have a little bit more of a clean match. Or I could be wrong. AJ wins. Bully wins next Thursday night at No Surrender. AJ beats Bully for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. AJ gets the title. And you know what happens in that situation? Something that should have happened a long time ago. What you do, if you have AJ win the Bound for Glory series, AJ beats Aries, Roode beats Magnus. You have AJ beat Bobby Roode. AJ beats Bully Ray at Bound for Glory. And then you put the World Heavyweight Championship on Christopher Daniels. And Daniels beats AJ in their final match ever. And that's how AJ has his swan song with Impact Wrestling. You put Daniels over with the world title, finally, giving him the championship that has eluded him his entire career. From a storyline perspective, this works, because Daniels with a world title would give him the massive ego. And then there'd be collusion with Bobby Roode, obviously, and with Kaz, so I mean, you got a new storyline there, and a way to turn Bobby Roode back into a babyface, or turn Kaz back into a babyface. There's a way to go with that. And if AJ's going to leave the company, and AJ is going to win the Bound for Glory series, and you want AJ to win the world title, have him put over Chris Daniels on the way out. Come on. It's a no-brainer, guys. And even if AJ stays with the company, you have Daniels win via nefarious means, and then have AJ and Daniels feud over the championship, and then AJ gets the title back, and everything's right in the world. Just, like I said, just my ideas. You can take them or leave them. I think the only justification I can say right now is Magnus isn't winning the Bound for Glory series. He got over too quick. I mean, he was unstoppable at the beginning of the thing. I mean, he had 49 points. And if Rude didn't cause him a disqualification, he wouldn't have lost 10, and then he wouldn't have dropped. He never dropped off the top of the Bound for Glory series until the very end. That's exactly the reason why Magnus can't win. And Aries winning the Bound for Glory series, I don't have a problem with that, but you have to have him beat, like I said, you have to have him win, and then you have to have him beat AJ clean, and then you have to have him beat Bobby Roode, and then you have to have him beat Bully Ray at Bound for Glory. Bully Ray beats Mr. Anderson on No Surrender next week, and then Aries has the championship for quite a while, and then, of course, you can have him feud with whomever you want to do. You have rematches with Bully. Like I said, the idea with Christopher Daniels, they had an amazing match on Impact yesterday, that I recapped yesterday. It was last week on Impact. And you can go a lot of different directions with it, to be totally honest. So for those of you out there that think that TNA is basically getting its final nails in the coffin, watch this show. This show was really good. The wrestling was excellent the last couple of weeks. And the swerve with Mr. Anderson at the end, just amazing. And I don't look at TNA spoilers, but it was really awesome to see this. So really looking forward to No Surrender next week. So I will recap that next week here on Pop. And in the meantime, if you like these videos, tell your friends about them. Leave a comment. Do subscribe. Subscribe. We are over 140 subscribers and still going strong. Over 13,000 views. It's amazing. And if you want to follow me, you can. On Twitter, it's @SirOwenDisney. If you want to send me an email, be my guest, siroWendisney@gmail.com. Or if you want to friend me, I'm very easy to find on Facebook. It's Owen Disney. So tomorrow, we hopefully, fingers crossed, will be talking about the Riddick trilogy. And Saturday, we've got NXT and SmackDown. And on Sunday, as long as everything works out, your cryptic comment for Versus this week is Vigilante. So yes, Vigilante this week and Headlock next week. And then we've got two awesome Versus actually going to be posted while I'm in Florida. So actually, AJ will be the only popcaster that will have content while I'm gone. So yes, you wanted it, you got it, folks. So until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I gotta say about that.